Good evening. We will be continuing with Chapter 3. Small disclaimer, there will be brief pauses for water intake. Chapter 3. When Amy stepped into the house at 11:45, she heard muffled noises in the kitchen. She thought her father was still awake, though he unusually went to bed early on Saturday night in order to get up in time for the first Mass on Sunday, thus freeing the rest of the day for his hobby, building miniature sets of model train layouts. When Amy got to the kitchen, she found only her mother. The voices were on the radio. It was tuned to a telephone talk show on a Chicago station, and the volume was turned low. The room smelled vaguely of garlic, onions, and tomato paste. There wasn't much light. A bulb burned above the sink, and the hood light was on over the stove. The radio dial cast a soft green glow. Ellen Harper was sitting at the kitchen table, actually. She was slumped over it, arms folded on the tabletop, head resting on her arms, her face turned away from the doorway where Amy stopped. A tall glass, half full of yellow liquid, was within Ellen's reach. Amy didn't have to sample the drink to know what it was. Her mother always drank the same thing: vodka and orange juice. And too much of it. She's asleep, Amy thought, relieved. She turned away from her mother, intending to sneak out of the room and upstairs to bed, but Ellen said, "You!" Amy sighed and looked back at her. Ellen's eyes were blurry, bloodshot, the lids drooped. She blinked in surprise. "What are you doing home?" "You're more than an hour early." "Jerry got sick," Amy lied. "He had to go home." "But you're more than an hour early," her mother said again, looking up at her in puzzlement, still blinking stupidly, struggling to penetrate the alcohol haze that had softened the outlines of her thoughts. "Jerry got sick, Mama. Something he ate at the prom." "It was a dance, wasn't it?" "Sure, but they had food. Hors d'oeuvres, cookies, cakes, punch, all kinds of stuff. Something he ate didn't agree with him." "Who?" "Jerry," Amy answered impatiently. Her mother frowned. "You're sure that's all that happened?" "What do you mean?" "Seems funny to me," Ellen said thickly, reaching for her unfinished drink. "Suspicious." "What could possibly be suspicious about Jerry getting sick?" Amy asked. Ellen sipped the vodka and orange juice. She studied Amy over the rim of her glass. Her stare was sharper than it had been a minute ago. Exasperated, Amy spoke before her mother had a chance to make any accusations. "Mama, I didn't come home late. I came home early. I don't think I deserve to be subjected to the usual third degree." "Don't you get smart with me," her mother said. Amy looked down at the floor, shifted nervously from one foot to the other. "Don't you remember what our Lord said?" Ellen asked. "Honor thy father and thy mother." That's what he'd said. After all these years of church services and Bible readings, hasn't anything sunk into that head? Amy didn't respond. From experience, she knew that respectful silence was the best way to deal with her mother, especially at times like this. Ellen finished her drink and got up. Her chair barked against the tile floor. She scooted it backwards. She came around the table, weaving slightly, and stopped in front of Amy. Her breath was sour. "I've tried hard, so very hard, to make a good girl out of you. I've made you go to church. I've forced you to read the Bible and pray every day. I've preached at you until I'm blue in the face. I've taught you all the right ways. I've done my best to keep you from going the wrong way. I've always been aware that you could go either way. Either way, good or bad." She swayed, but put a hand on Amy's shoulder to steady herself. "I've seen the potential in you, girl. I've seen that you have the potential for evil. I pray my heart out to Our Lady every day to look over you and guard you. There's a darkness deep inside of you, and it must never be allowed to come to the surface." Ellen leaned very close, put a hand under Amy's chin, lifted the girl's head, and met her eyes. Amy felt as if ice-cold snakes were uncoiling inside of her. Ellen stared at her with a particular drunken intensity, with the burning gaze of a fever victim. She seemed to be looking into her daughter's soul, and there was a mixture of fear and anger and hard-edged determination in her expression. Yes, Ellen said, whispering now. There's a darkness in you. You could slip so easily. It's in you. The weakness, the difference. Something bad is in you, and you have to fight it every minute. You have to be careful, always careful. Please, Mama, did you let that boy touch you tonight? No, Mama. Unless you're married, it's a dirty, filthy thing. If you slip, the devil will have you. The thing inside you will come to the surface for everyone to see, and no one must ever see it. No one must know what you've got inside you. You've got to wrestle with that even. Keep it caged. Yes, Mama. Letting the boy touch you, that's an awful sin. Getting drunk out of your mind every night is a sin too, Mama. Using booze to escape from your worries is sinful. You use booze and the church the same way, Mama. You use them to forget your troubles, to hide from something. What are you hiding from, Mama? What are you so afraid of? Amy wished she could say all of that, but she didn't dare. Did he touch you? Her mother asked. I told you no. He touched you. No. Don't lie to me. We went to the prom and he got sick. He brought me home. That's all, Mama. Did he touch your breasts? No, Amy said, unsettled and highly embarrassed. Did you let him put his hands on your legs? Amy shook her head. Ellen's hand tightened on the girl's shoulder like a talon, fingers digging painfully deep. You touched him, she said, her words slurring just a bit. No, I didn't. You touched him between the legs. Mama, I came home early. Ellen stared at her for several seconds, searching for the truth. But at last the fire went out of her dark eyes. The debilitating effects of the booze became evident again, and her eyelids drooped. The flesh on her face sagged on her bones. When she was sober, she was a pretty woman. But she was drunk, she looked haggard, much older than she looked otherwise. She let go of Amy, turned away, and tottered back to the table. She picked up her empty glass, carried it to the refrigerator, dropped a couple of ice cubes into it. She added a little orange juice and a lot of vodka. Mama, can I go to bed now? Don't forget to say your prayers. I won't forget. Say the rosary too. It wouldn't hurt you. Yes, Mama. Her long dress rustling noisily, Amy hurried upstairs. In her bedroom, she switched on the lamp and stood by the bed, shuddering. Her long hair falling about her shoulders. If she failed to raise the abortion money, if she had to tell her mother she couldn't expect her father to intercede, not this time, he would be angry. He would agree to any punishment her mother proposed. Paul Harper was a moderately successful attorney, a man who was in control within the legal arena, but at home he relinquished nearly all authority to his wife. Ellen made the domestic decisions, large and small, and for the most part, Paul was happy to be relieved of the responsibility. If Ellen insisted Amy carry the baby to term, Paul Harper would support that decision. And Mama will insist on it, Amy thought miserably. She looked at the Catholic icons her mother had placed around the room. A crucifix hung at the head of her bed, and a smaller one hung above the door. A statuette of the Virgin Mary was on the nightstand. 2 more painted religious statuettes stood on the dresser. There was also a painting of Jesus. He was pointing to his sacred heart, which was exposed and bleeding. In her mind, Amy heard her mother's voice. Don't forget to say your prayers. Fuck it, Amy said out loud defiantly. What could she ask God to do for her? Give her money for an abortion? There wasn't much chance of that prayer being answered. She stripped off her clothes. For a couple of minutes, she stood in front of the full-length mirror, studying her new body. She couldn't see any sure signs of pregnancy. Her belly was flat. Gradually, the medical nature of her self-inspection changed to a more intimate, stimulating appraisal. She drew her hands slowly up to her body, cupping her full breasts, teasing her nipples. She glanced at the religious statuettes on the dresser. Her nipples were erect. She slid her hands down her sides, reached behind, and squeezed her own buttocks. She looked at the painting of Jesus. Somehow, by flaunting her body at the image of Christ, she felt she was hurting her mother, deeply wounding her. Amy didn't understand why she felt that way. It didn't make sense. The painting was only a painting. Jesus wasn't really here in the room watching her. Yet she continued to pose lasciviously in front of the mirror, caressing herself, touching herself obscenely. After a minute or two, she caught sight of her own eyes in the mirror, and that brief glimpse into her own soul startled and discorded her. She quickly put on her flannel nightgown. What's wrong with me? She wondered. Am I really bad inside, like Mama says? Am I evil? Confused, she finally knelt at the side of her bed and said her prayers after all. A quarter of an hour later, when she pulled back the covers, there was a tarantula on her pillow. She gasped, jumped, and then realized that the hideous thing was only a painted rubber novelty. She sighed wearily, put the phony spider in the drawer of her nightstand, and got into bed. Her 10-year-old brother Joey never missed a chance to play a practical joke on her. Ordinarily, when she encountered one of his tricks, she went looking for him, pretending to be furious, threatening him with grave bodily harm. Of course, she wasn't capable of hurting the boy. She loved him very much. But her mock anger was part of the game that Joey enjoyed most. Usually in retaliation for his pranks, Amy did nothing more than hold him down and tickle him until he promised to be good. Right now, he was in bed, probably awake in spite of the late hour, waiting for her to storm into his room. But tonight she would have to disappoint him. She wasn't in the mood for their usual routine, and she didn't have the energy for it either. She got into bed and switched off the light. She couldn't sleep. She thought about Jerry Galloway. She had told him the truth when he had ridiculed his skills as a lover. She had seldom had an orgasm. He was a clumsy, ignorant, thoughtless bedmate. Yet she had let him touch her night after night. He got a little or no pleasure out of their affair, but she allowed him to use her as he wished. But why? Why? She wasn't a bad girl. She wasn't wild or loose, not deep down in her heart. Even while she let Jerry use her, she hated herself for being so easy. Whenever she made out with a boy in a parked car, she felt awkward, embarrassed, out of place, as if she were trying to become someone else, not her. She wasn't a lazy girl either. She had ambition. She planned to go to Royal City Junior College and then to Ohio State, majoring in art. She would get a job as a commercial artist, and she would labor at fine arts in her spare time, nights and weekends. And if she found that she had enough talent to make a good living as a painter, she would quit the 9-to-5 job and create wonderfully beautiful pictures for sailing galleries. She was determined to build a successful and interesting life. But now she was pregnant. Her dreams were ashes. Maybe she didn't deserve happiness. Maybe she was bad, just deep down rotten. Did a good girl spread her legs in the backseat of a boy's car nearly every night of the week? Did a good girl get knocked up while she was still in high school? The dark minutes of the night unwound like black thread from a spinning spool. And Amy's thoughts unwound too, tangled and confusing thoughts. She couldn't make up her mind about herself. She couldn't decide whether she was basically a good person or a bad one. In her mind, Amy could hear her mother's voice. And there it was again. There's a darkness in you. Something bad is in you, and you have to fight it every minute. Suddenly, Amy wondered if her sluttish behavior was just an attempt to spite her mother. That was an unsettling thought. Speaking softly to the blackness around her, she said, "Did I let Jerry knock me up just because I knew the news would shatter Mama? Am I destroying my own future just to hurt that bitch?" She lay very still beneath the covers, thinking. Outside, the wind stirred the nearby maple trees. In the distance, a train whistle sounded. The door scraped open and floorboards creaked beneath the carpet as someone walked into the room. The noise woke Jerry Harper. He opened his eyes and looked at the alarm clock, which was visible in the pale glow of the nightlight. 12:36. He'd been asleep for an hour and a half, but he wasn't groggy. He was instantly awake and alert, for he was anticipating Amy's reaction to the tarantula in her bed. He had set his alarm for 1 o'clock because that was when she was supposed to come home. Apparently, she had returned early. Footsteps, soft, sneaky, coming closer. Joey tensed under the sheets, but he continued to feign sleep. The footsteps stopped at the side of his bed. Joey felt a giggle building in him. He bit his tongue and struggled to hold back his laughter. He sensed her leaning towards him. She was inches away. He was going to wait a few seconds longer, and then, when she was on the verge of tickling him, he was going to yell in her face and scare the dickens out of her. He kept his eyes closed, breathed shallowly and evenly, and counted off the seconds. 1, 2, 3. Just as he was about to shout in her face when he realized that the person bending over him wasn't Amy. He smelled sour, alcohol-tainted breath, and his heart began to pound. Unaware that Joey was awake, his mother said, "Sweet, sweet little Joey, little baby boy angel, sweet, precious little angel face." Her voice was eerie. She spoke in an odd, half-whispered, half-crooned, throaty, silky stream of slurred words. He wished desperately that she would go away. She was very drunk, worse than usual. She had come into his room several other nights when she'd been in this condition. She had talked to him thinking he was asleep. Maybe she came in a lot more nights than he knew. Maybe some nights he was asleep. Anyway, he knew what was coming. And he knew what she was going to say, do, and he dreaded it. "You little angel. You look like a little snoozing angel. A baby angel. Lying there so innocent, so tender, so sweet." She leaned even closer, bathing his face with her pungent breath. "But what are you like inside, little angel? Are you sweet and good and pure all the way through?" "Stop it, stop it, stop it," Joey thought. "Please don't do this again, Mama. Go away. Get out of here, please." But he didn't speak to her. He didn't move. He didn't let her know that he was awake, because when she was like this, he was afraid of her. "You look so pure." Her alcohol-thickened voice growing even softer, even more blurry. "But maybe that angel face is just the surface. A mask. Maybe you're just putting on an act for me, huh? Are you? Maybe. Underneath. Maybe you're just like the other one. Are you, little angel? Under that sweet face, are you like the other one? The monster. The thing he called Victor." Joey had never been able to figure out what she was talking about when she snuck in here in the night and mumbled drunkenly at him. Who was Victor? "If I produced one like you, why not another?" she asked herself out loud, and Joey thought she sounded a bit afraid now. This time, maybe it's a monster inside. In the mind, a monster inside, hiding in a normal body, behind such a nice face, waiting to come out when nobody's looking. Just waiting patiently, both you and Amy. Huh? Wolves in sheep's clothing? Could be, sure. Could be that way. What if it is? When will it happen? When will the thing come out of you for everyone to see? Can I turn my back on you, little angel? Can I ever be safe? Oh, God. Oh, Jesus. Jesus, help me. Mary, help me. I should never have had children. Not after the first one. I can never be sure of what I've created. Never. What if? Increasingly numbed by the liquor she had drunk, her tongue and lips became less and less sable. The words she wanted to say, and she lowered her voice so far that Joey could barely hear, even though she was less than a foot from him. What if? Someday. What if I have to kill you, little angel? Softer, softer, words by terrible words, all became softer. What if I have to kill you, like I had to kill the other one? She began to weep quietly. Joey was suddenly chilled to the bone, and he was worried that his shivering would disturb the sheets and draw her attention. He was afraid she would discover that he had heard every word. Eventually, her stifled weeping subsided. Joey was sure she could hear his pounding heartbeat. He felt strange. He was afraid of her, but he was also sorry for her. He wanted to hug her and tell her everything would be all right, but he didn't dare move. Finally, after what seemed like hours, but was surely only a minute or two, she left the bedroom, gently pulling the door shut after her. Under the covers, Joey curled into a tight fetal ball. What did it all mean? What had she been talking about? Was she just drunk? Or was she crazy? Nevertheless, he was glad that he had the one milky glow of the weak night light. He sure didn't want to be alone in the dark right now. In the nightmare, Amy had given birth to a bizarre, deformed baby. A disgusting, vicious thing that looked more like a crab than a human. She was in a small, poorly lit room with it, and it was coming after her, snapping at her with its bony pincers and arachnoid mandibles. The walls held narrow windows. Each time she passed one of them, she saw her mother and Jerry Galloway on the far side of the glass. They were looking at her and laughing. Then the baby scuttled along the floor, closed in fast, and seized her ankle in one of its spiny pincers. She woke up, sat up in bed, and scream caught in the back of her throat. She choked it down. Just a dream. Just a bad dream, courtesy of Jerry Galloway. Damn him. In the gloom to her right, something moved. She snapped on the bedside lamp. Curtains. Her window was open a couple of inches to provide ventilation, and a mild breeze stirred the curtain. Outside, a block or two away, a dog howled mournfully. Amy looked at the clock. 3 a.m. She sat there for a while until she had calmed down. But when she switched off the light, she couldn't get back to sleep. The darkness was oppressive and threatening in a way it hadn't been since she was a small child. She had the curious, disturbing feeling that outside in the night, something terrible was bearing down on Harper House. Like a tornado. But not a tornado, something else. Something weird, worse than a mere storm. She'd had a premonition. Not quite the right word, but the only word that came close to describing what she was feeling. An icy premonition that some relentlessly destructive force was closing in on her and the entire family. She tried to imagine what it could be, but no explanations occurred to her. The impression of danger remained formless, nameless, but powerful. The sensation was, in fact, so electrifying, so unshakable that she finally had to get up and go to the window, even though she felt foolish for doing so. Maple Lane was dozing peacefully, wrapped in unthreatening shadows, and beyond their street, the suburban south side of Royal City rose on a series of gentle low hills. And at this hour, there was only a sprinkling of lights. Farther south at the edge of town and above it lay the county fairgrounds. The fairgrounds were dark right now, deserted, but in July, when the carnival arrived, Amy would be able to stand at her window and see the blaze of colored lights, the far-off magical blur of the steely turning Ferris wheel. The night was filled only with the familiar. There was nothing new in it, nothing dangerous. The feeling that she was standing in the path of a fiercely destructive oncoming storm faded, and exhaustion replaced it. She returned to her bed. Only one threat loomed over Harper household, and that was her pregnancy. the inescapable consequences of her sin. Amy put her hands on her belly, and she thought about what her mother would say, and she wondered if she would always be as alone and helpless as she was now, and she wondered what was coming. Small pause.